For decades, humanity tried to be peaceful. They followed the Galactic Council's rules. They signed the unfair treaties. They accepted being called a lesser species. But patience has a limit. And the day came when humanity had enough. The oppression of Earth. Earth was a new member of the Galactic Council, but not an equal one. The Council saw humans as inferior, calling them primitive mammals from a backwater world. They taxed Earth's resources heavily but gave nothing in return. They banned human warships, forcing Earth to rely on Council-approved defense fleets. They even restricted human scientific research, afraid that Earth might become too advanced. And through it all, humanity endured, hoping that, one day, the Council would see them as equals. That day never came. The Kelsier Massacre. The final insult came when the Kelsier Empire, a powerful alien race and a key member of the Council, attacked a human colony. The colony, New Avalon, was a peaceful settlement on the edge of human space. It had no weapons, no military presence, only farmers, scientists, and families. And yet, the Kelsier fleet bombed it to the ground. Thousands of innocent humans died in the attack. When Earth's leaders demanded justice, the Council's response was cold and dismissive. It was a mistake, they said. An unfortunate misunderstanding. The Kelsier were not punished. No reparations were made. And then came the final insult. The Council ordered humanity to accept the loss and move on. That was the moment humanity realized the truth. The Galactic Council would never respect Earth, and diplomacy had failed. The decision that changed everything. The leaders of Earth met in a secret underground chamber. For the first time, there was no debate. There was no argument. Everyone agreed on one thing. No more negotiations. No more mercy. It was time for war. But not just any war. A war to end the Galactic Council forever. A war to show the galaxy that humanity was not weak. A war to make the Council pay for what they had done. And so, that night, the leaders of Earth gave a single order. Prepare for the reckoning. The silent preparation. For years, Earth had followed the Council's laws. They had stayed within their limits. But secretly, humanity had been preparing. Scientists had been developing new weapons in hidden labs. Engineers had been building warships in deep space shipyards, far from the Council's eyes. Cyber warfare experts had been hacking into enemy systems, gathering intelligence. Special forces had been training for infiltration missions, ready to strike at the heart of the enemy. Humanity had waited long enough. Now, it was time to act. The first strike is coming. The Galactic Council still believed Earth was weak and obedient. They still mocked humanity in their meetings. They still laughed at human ambition. They had no idea what was coming. Because soon, they would hear humanity's response, and it would come with fire and fury. The galaxy had pushed Earth too far. And now, the price would be paid in blood. The Galactic Council believed humans were powerless. They thought Earth would complain, protest, and then obey, just like always. But this time, they were wrong. Because humanity had stopped being peaceful. And the first strike was coming. The secret war machine. For decades, the Council had forbidden humanity from building warships. But they never imagined that Earth had been preparing in secret, in the depths of space, hidden behind artificial nebulae and cloaked asteroids. Humanity had built something monstrous, a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships with adaptive armor, weapons that bypassed energy shields, stealth technology that made them invisible to scanners, and most importantly, a plan that would shake the entire galaxy. Target. The Council's pride. Earth's leaders had chosen the perfect target for their first strike. Zephyra Prime, the headquarters of the Council's military fleet. It was a heavily fortified world, defended by hundreds of warships. A direct assault would be suicide. But humans didn't plan a direct assault. They planned something far worse. The unseen attack. A small stealth fleet of human warships slipped past enemy defenses. They didn't fire a single shot. Instead, they hacked into Zephyra Prime's planetary defense systems. Within minutes, they took control of orbital defense cannons, shield generators, planetary communication networks. The Council fleet, unaware of what was happening, remained relaxed and overconfident until Earth gave the order, and Zephyra Prime's own defenses turned against them. The fall of Zephyra Prime. In the blink of an eye, the mighty Galactic Council fleet was under attack by their own weapons. Their shields collapsed. Their ships exploded in chaos. Admirals screamed orders, but their systems were unresponsive. The Council fleet was defenseless. And that's when the human warships emerged from the shadows. They finished what the hacked defenses had started. A battle that should have lasted days was over in minutes. Zephyra Prime had fallen. The heart of the Council's military was gone. And the galaxy finally understood what humanity was capable of. The message to the galaxy. The survivors of Zephyra Prime fled in terror. They spread the news across the stars. The humans. They are not weak. They are not primitive. They are predators. And now, they are hunting us. The Galactic Council had ruled through fear for centuries. But now, for the first time, they were the ones who were afraid. Humanity had struck. And this was just the beginning. The fall of Zephyra Prime shook the entire galaxy. For centuries, the Galactic Council had ruled with absolute power. No species had ever dared challenge them and survived. But humanity had not only challenged them, they had humiliated them. And the rest of the galaxy had been watching. The whisper of rebellion. In the shadowy corners of the galaxy, among the oppressed species, a new hope began to rise. The Drakvar, a warrior race enslaved by the Council for generations, saw Earth's victory and whispered among themselves, "If the humans can fight, why can't we?" The Vreli, a race of scientists whose discoveries were stolen by the Council, asked, "If the humans can resist, why can't we?" The Uldari, a peaceful species forced to provide resources to the Council, dared to think, "If the humans can strike back, maybe we are not powerless." Rebellion, once an impossible dream, was now a real possibility. And the first species to act were the Drakvar. The Drakvar break their chains. For centuries, the Drakvar had been used as shock troops for the Galactic Council. They were strong, fast, and ruthless, but the Council kept them in control with collars implanted in their spines, devices that could paralyze or kill them instantly. No Drakvar had ever escaped the Council's grasp. Until now, the humans had intercepted classified data from Zephyra Prime, including the security codes for the Drakvar collars. And in a single broadcast, those codes were transmitted across every Drakvar colony in the galaxy. Millions of warriors, once enslaved, were now free. And their first act as free beings. They turned their weapons on their former masters. The Council's control begins to crack. As the Drakvar slaughtered their captors, panic spread across the Galactic Council. The Vreli scientists sabotaged Council research stations. The Uldari stopped all resource shipments, starving Council fleets. And in the heart of the Council's capital world, silent protests turned into full-scale riots. The Council had spent centuries ruling through fear. But now, the fear was working against them. Because the galaxy had seen what humans could do. And now, they were following Earth's example. The Council prepares for war. The Council leaders gathered in their grand chamber. They had ruled for thousands of years. They had crushed dozens of rebellions before. But this was different. Because this rebellion had a leader. And that leader was humanity. For the first time in history, the Council was no longer fighting scattered resistance. They were facing a coordinated strategic enemy. And worst of all, they didn't know what the humans would do next. Humanity's next move. Back on Earth, the leaders of humanity watched the galaxy descend into chaos. The plan was working. The Council was weakened. Its allies were deserting it. And now, humanity had a choice to make. Would they let the rebellion weaken the council from within? Or would they deliver the final blow themselves? One thing was certain. The war was far from over. But for the first time, humanity wasn't fighting alone. The Galactic Council was desperate. For the first time in history, their iron grip on the galaxy was slipping. Zephyra Prime had fallen. The Drakvar warriors had broken free. The Vreli scientists were sabotaging vital infrastructure. And the Uldari had shut down supply lines, starving the Council's fleets. But despite all this chaos, the Council still had one final weapon. The Grand Armada, a fleet so massive, so powerful, that no rebellion had ever survived its arrival. And now it was heading straight for Earth. But humanity was ready. The Council's ultimate weapon. The Grand Armada was the pride of the Galactic Council. Over 50,000 warships, planet-destroying cannons, fleet coordination AI that predicted enemy movements before they happened. To the rest of the galaxy, it was unstoppable. To the Council, it was the final answer to humanity's defiance. But the humans had always planned for this moment. They had always known the Council would bring everything they had. And so, humanity had built something in secret. Something the Council never expected. Something that would change the course of history. Project Revenant, humanity's true strength. For years, humanity had been pretending to be weak. The Council had forbidden Earth from building warships, so humanity built factories on asteroids and moons, hidden from scanners. They had tested experimental weapons in deep space, beyond the reach of spies. And now, their true fleet was ready. Project Revenant, a fleet built not for survival, but for total domination. Stealth ships that could phase out of detection. Missiles that warped through enemy shields. AI-piloted battlecruisers that adapted mid-fight. Supercarriers with weapons capable of breaking entire armadas. It wasn't just a fleet. It was a declaration of war. And it was about to be unleashed upon the galaxy. The ambush at the edge of Sol. The Grand Armada arrived at the edge of the Sol system, expecting the swift victory. They would bombard Earth into submission, then hunt down every last rebel species. But before they could even enter the system, their ships began vanishing. Not exploding, not being attacked. Just disappearing. One by one, Council warships were blinking out of existence. Admirals screamed for explanations. Fleet commanders panicked. And then, humanity answered. A transmission was broadcast across every Council ship. A human admiral, calm and smiling, stared back at them. "You are trespassing in human space. Leave now, or become part of history." Then the real slaughter began. The Grand Armada falls. Out of nowhere, hundreds of human warships decloaked. They fired weapons unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Fleet coordination AI hacked and turned against them. Planet-destroying cannons, overloaded and detonated from within. Council battleships, reduced to drifting wrecks in seconds. The unstoppable Grand Armada was being picked apart like prey. And then, Earth revealed its final move. The Titan rises. A massive shadow emerged from behind Saturn. A ship so large, so powerful, that it made even the Council's dreadnoughts look like toys. The Titan-class battleship, Revenant. Armed with the most advanced human technology ever created, it fired once, and half the Grand Armada ceased to exist. The battle was over before it even truly began. The Council's greatest fleet was no more. And the survivors, they fled. Not to regroup, not to fight another day. They fled because, for the first time in history, the Galactic Council knew true fear. The war was no longer just humanity's. News of the battle spread like wildfire. Every oppressed species saw what had happened. The mighty Council had been defeated. Their unstoppable Grand Armada had been crushed. And now, the rebels across the galaxy knew one thing for certain. The humans weren't just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for everyone. The galaxy would never be the same. And this was only the beginning. The Grand Armada was gone. The Galactic Council, once feared by all, now faced an impossible reality. They were losing. Humanity had done more than just defeat their greatest fleet. They had shattered the illusion of Council invincibility. The Council's enemies had always been scattered, afraid, disorganized. But now, they had a leader. They had a plan. And most dangerously, they had hope. The rebellion rises. Across the galaxy, species that had suffered under the Council's rule rose up in open defiance. The Drakvar, once enslaved as shock troops, were now launching planetary assaults on Council strongholds. The Vreli, whose technology had been stolen for centuries, were now sabotaging key supply lines, paralyzing entire fleets. The Uldari, once forced to mine resources for the Council's war machine, had seized control of entire systems. Rebellions that would have been crushed in days before were now winning. And at the heart of it all was humanity. They weren't just fighting the Council. They were leading a revolution. The Council's desperate plan. The Galactic Council had one last option. One final move before their empire collapsed completely. They called it Project Extinction. If they couldn't rule the galaxy, they would burn it to the ground. The ultimate weapon, the Omega device, buried deep within the Council's homeworld, high above the toxic clouds of Sci-Fi Prime, was a weapon so powerful it had never been used. The Omega device, a doomsday weapon capable of igniting stars, vaporizing planets, and erasing entire civilizations. The Council had always kept it secret, even from their own people, because it was too dangerous. But now, as humanity and their allies closed in, the Council had made its decision. They would wipe out Earth. They would destroy every rebel world. And they would remind the galaxy why they had ruled for thousands of years. Humanity strikes first. But there was one problem. Humanity already knew. The Council thought their weapon was a secret. But Earth's intelligence network was better than they had ever imagined. By the time the Council was arming the Omega device, human warships were already on their way. Led by the Titan-class battleship Revenant, the human fleet launched a direct assault on Sci-Fi Prime. It was a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The Council's last remaining fleets gathered around their homeworld, determined to protect their doomsday weapon at all costs. The humans. They weren't there to win a battle. They were there to end the war. The final battle. From the moment the battle began, it was clear who had the advantage. The Council's ships were outdated, desperate, and low on resources. Humanity's forces were precise, coordinated, and unstoppable. The Revenant led the charge, its superweapon cutting through entire enemy formations. Stealth frigates infiltrated Council command centers, shutting down planetary defenses. And then, as the Council's forces began to break, the humans launched their final attack. A surgical strike team, led by Earth's most elite operatives, landed on the surface of Sci-Fi Prime. Their mission? Destroy the Omega device before it could be activated. The end of the Council. Deep inside the Council's most heavily fortified bunker, the last surviving Council leaders gathered. They had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Now, they were cornered rats. As human forces broke through the final defenses, the Council made one last, desperate move. They activated the Omega device. The countdown began. 10 minutes until total galactic annihilation. But humanity had come prepared. The elite strike team fought their way through the facility, hacking into the Omega device's controls. With only seconds left, they did the impossible. They overloaded the weapon. Instead of destroying Earth, the Omega device detonated beneath the Council's own homeworld. Sci-Fi Prime, the very heart of the Galactic Council, vanished in an explosion brighter than a supernova. And with it, the Council was no more. The dawn of a new era. The war was over. The rebellion had won. And the galaxy, for the first time in history, was free. Across 1,000 worlds, species once crushed under the Council's rule celebrated their first taste of independence. Humanity, once mocked as a primitive species, was now the undisputed leader of the galaxy. But Earth did not claim an empire. They did not replace the Council with their own rule. Instead, they formed an alliance, one built on freedom, not oppression. An alliance where no species would ever have to suffer under tyranny again. Humanity had started this war alone. But in the end, they had won it for everyone. The Galactic Council was no more. Its fleets were destroyed. Its leaders were dead. And its homeworld, Sci-Fi Prime, was now nothing but cosmic dust. For the first time in galactic history, the Council's iron grip was broken. The war was over. But peace? Peace was still far away. The aftermath of war. The galaxy was in chaos. With the Council gone, entire star systems were left without leadership. Old rivalries resurfaced. Former Council species turned on each other, and many now feared humanity. They had seen what Earth was capable of. A species once mocked as weak had just crushed the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Now, every surviving faction faced a terrifying question. Would humanity become the new rulers? Or worse, would they finish what they started? The human dilemma. On Earth, the celebrations had already begun. Cities lit up in victory. Soldiers returned home as heroes. But in the war rooms of Earth's military command, a different conversation was taking place. Because war leaves scars, and humanity had just changed forever. For years, they had fought for survival. Now, they had power, and power came with consequences. The question was simple. What happens next? The call for leadership. The rebels who had fought alongside humanity now looked to Earth for guidance. The Drakvar, the Vreli, the Uldari, and dozens of other species, all of them wanted a new order, a new galactic government, a new leader, and to them, only one species was strong enough to take that role: humanity. But Earth's leaders were divided. Some believed that taking control was the only way to prevent another war. Others feared that if humanity became rulers, they would become no better than the Council. It was a dangerous choice, and while humans debated, the galaxy watched. The rise of new enemies, the fall of the Council had left a power vacuum, and power vacuums never last for long. Across the galaxy, new threats were already emerging. Some species saw this as their chance to seize control. Some Council loyalists had gone into hiding, waiting for their chance to strike back. And in the darkest corners of space, something far worse was stirring. Something older than the Council. Something that had been waiting, watching. And now that humanity had changed the balance of power, it was finally time to act. The warning from the stars. It started as a whisper, a distress signal from a distant colony. Then, an entire fleet disappeared without a trace. And then, a message. Not from the Council, not from any known species. A message that sent fear through the heart of every leader in the galaxy. A message that would change everything. You have killed the old masters, but you have awakened something far worse. We are coming. The war with the Galactic Council was over. Humanity had won. The old rulers were dead, their empire shattered. But in the shadows of victory, something far worse was coming. Something older than the Council. Something that had been waiting for this moment. And now, the real war was about to begin. The vanishing fleets. It started with a single lost patrol. A human reconnaissance ship, the U.S. Pathfinder, sent a distress signal from the edge of the Andromeda expanse. Then, silence. No wreckage, no survivors, just gone. At first, Earth's military command thought it was a fluke, maybe a black hole, maybe a system failure. But then, it happened again. Entire colonies stopped responding. Merchant fleets vanished without a trace. And then, the worst report of all. A Drakvar war fleet had been wiped out in seconds. Not by humans, not by rebels, by something else, something unknown, a message from the void. The first real clue came from a damaged Uldari escape pod. A single survivor was found, barely alive, rambling in fear. His words sent chills through Earth's top commanders. Not council, not rebels, not anything we've ever seen before. They don't speak, they don't warn, they just take, and they are coming. That's when humanity received the message. Not a distress call, not a warning. A single transmission, broadcast across every known frequency in the galaxy. A voice that was not a voice. A presence that felt ancient, cold, mechanical, and unstoppable. You are no longer alone. Your war has awakened us. We are coming. The lost civilization. Digging through old Galactic Council records, humanity's scientists made a terrifying discovery. A legend buried in secrecy. A name that even the Council had feared to speak aloud. The Harbingers. An ancient force said to have wiped out entire civilizations before the Council even existed. A species. A machine. No one knew, because no one had survived them. The Council had always believed they were just a myth. But now, the myth was real. And they were waking up. The first contact. And the first death. Humanity didn't have to wait long. The first Harbinger ships arrived in the Orion sector, a massive fleet of black, silent vessels that defied every known law of physics. They did not respond to communication. They did not slow down. They just advanced. Earth's military launched a preemptive strike, sending their best warships to intercept. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. Every human ship was erased. No explosions, no debris, just gone, like they had never existed at all. The final warning. As Earth's leaders gathered in an emergency council, the final message arrived. A signal burned into every human communication system at once. A warning. You have destroyed your masters. Now your galaxy belongs to us. Humanity had defeated the Council, but in doing so, they had awakened something far worse. And this time, they weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the future of the entire galaxy.